Yeah, I think a lot of people who have seen this happen in Connecticut understand how unfair it is, especially because these biological males were beating us females by significant margins in these races, and it was happening at every state meet, every single race that we raced against them, we were losing, and it was a big difference, and everyone can tell that.
I'm Dave Rubin, and we're going to be doing something a bit different today. Let me give you a little backstory here. On May 22nd of this year, USA Today put out an op-ed from collegiate track star Chelsea Mitchell about her experiences competing against transgender athletes. However, on May 25th, just 3 days later, the publication changed the word male to transgender throughout her piece without warning and called her out for using, quote, hurtful language. In an editor's note, the outlet explained that the op-ed was updated to, quote, reflect USA Today's standards and style guidelines. We regret that hurtful language was used. Today, I'm speaking with the author of that op-ed and her lawyer. Please welcome one of the fastest girls in Connecticut, track star Chelsea Mitchell, and her lawyer, who is the general counsel at the Alliance Defending Freedom, Kristen Waggoner. Ladies, welcome to the Rubin Report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm glad to have both of you. Kristen, I reached out to you originally when I saw this story on Twitter because it just so fits so many of the things that I've been talking about on this show. Chelsea, I'll start with you since you wrote the original piece. Well, I guess first, just tell me how you got into track and you enjoy running, right? Like that's really what this is all about. You want to compete against girls in running.
Yeah, I was an athlete my entire life. And when I got to high school, I started running track. And I kind of quickly realized that I was really good at it. And unfortunately, my experience in high school was, not the best because I had to race against biological males my entire high school career. I lost a lot of opportunities because of it. I lost 4 state championships, 2 All New England awards, and countless other opportunities to place and advance and medal.
Right. So when did it start that biological boys, trans girls, were in the races that you were in girls' races?
Yeah, my freshman year was when it first started happening.
And was it immediate that they were right out of the gate, they were faster and winning all the races?
Right out the gate, they were still placing very high in the state. When I was a freshman, I placed 7th at the state open in the 100 meters, and one of the biological males placed 3rd, knocking me out of the spot to advance the New England championship.
Right. So what caused you to write this piece? And then I'll get to sort of where the legal part of this is, and then we'll get Kristen involved.
I really just wanted to bring attention to what has been happening in Connecticut because I personally think it's really unfair to have biological males race against biological females because we just cannot keep up with the physical advantage of a male body. And so I decided to put out my own story out there so that people could understand what was happening and how unfair it was.
And to be clear, I'm guessing you are not anti-trans in any way.
No, not at all.
Put it out there. Okay. So Kristen, when did you get involved in all of this?
Well, initially we filed a complaint with the Department of Education. That was during the Trump administration in June of 2019. And as time continued to pass and we weren't seeing the Department of Ed take substantive action on it, we ended up filing a lawsuit in February of 2020. And that was Chelsea's senior year. And there were some circumstances for her where she was ready to move forward with that. And we were glad to assist because there were 4 state championship titles that she was losing. And it was just coming to the end where we needed to get judicial relief. And so that's why we filed the lawsuit.
Right. So, Chelsea, what do most people think sort of behind the scenes? I sense that there's sort of an activist class and a media class that loves pushing these stories. But the average person that's going to these track events and watching you lose to a biological male probably gets why you're upset about this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who have seen this happen in Connecticut understand how unfair it is, especially because these biological males were beating us females by significant margins in these races, and it was happening at every state meet, every single race that we raced against them, we were losing, and it was a big difference, and everyone can tell that.
Yeah. So Kristen, what do you want legally? What would be right to legally happen at this point?
Well, there are 4 girls that are in the case in Connecticut. 2 have graduated and 2 remain in the Connecticut schools. And so for the 2 that have graduated, including Chelsea and also Selena Soul, those records need to be corrected. In this case alone, it's important to realize there were 2 boys that identified as girls. One of those boys competed as a girl 3 weeks before he decided to move over and compete as a girl. And those 2 boys took 15 different races, championships away from girls during those 3 seasons. So there was a huge impact in Connecticut. So we want the records to be set straight. And then for the girls that are continuing in this Connecticut system, they need to be assured that there are going to be biological girls competing against each other and that it's going to be a fair playing field moving forward.
I suspect I know the answer to this question, but is there any evidence of biological girls transitioning to be boys and then winning in boys' sports?
None that I can think of. I mean, I'm sure there may be isolated cases where that's true, but what we do know is that when boys transition into the girl sports, there are hundreds, literally hundreds of high school boys that can beat the most elite female runners. And they have a 10 to 50% performance gap. So when you're just looking at averages alone, a mediocre male athlete will almost always be able to beat an elite female athlete.
Now, Chelsea, if I was to repeat what Kristen just said right there, somebody would say you're being transphobic. Boys and girls, men and women are exactly the same. Do you concede that there are some biological differences?
Of course, there are biological differences between males and females. That's why we have sex-separated sports. I mean, it's kind of hard for you to just put a biological male in the female category and say that it's not an issue. When I know so many boys in the state could easily beat me, and they would not win the state championship if they were in the boy category.
Right. So what would you prefer that those trans athletes do? Should they have their own division altogether, or you would just prefer that, okay, you were born male, you should just be competing with the boys regardless of how you feel about yourself, something like that?
I think the most important thing right now is to protect the female category and make sure that us females are having a fair competition. And I think that should be the number 1 priority.
Right. Kristen, what do you make of USA Today switching some of the language here? I mean, once you submit an op-ed, Chelsea wrote a piece that was honest and heartfelt, and then suddenly it's not just that they're changing language. The implication is somehow that what Chelsea was saying was somehow hateful.
It was shocking to us. I mean, we write op-eds all the time. Our clients are writing op-eds. And we can't think of any other instance in the 30-year history we've been involved in public interest law where they have felt like they could change what someone else wrote without even advance notice. Like, we didn't get a call that said, hey, just want you to know. This just happened. And it's shocking in terms of the lack of journalistic integrity and also the accusations, because nothing could be further from the truth.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about women's issues instead of nonstop yelling, check out our Women's Issues playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist. They're both right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.